Have you questioned what's holding me back in life? It might be you. Let's talk about discipline through adversity. What's up, guys? Luke Krubeck coming at you with episode 16 of the Progressive Resistance Podcast. Just a reminder, this podcast can be found on the Luke Krubeck YouTube channel, on the podcast playlist. It can also be found on Spotify and also on Apple Podcasts. Make sure you check it out. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, download, all that good stuff to help us spread the good word. And remember to build the better you. This episode, I am coming at you solo, no guest today, and going to share some things that are top of the mind awareness for me right now. Discipline through adversity. Discipline through adversity is also the title of a mastermind that my wife and I are putting on here in Cody, Wyoming, June 6th and 7th, 2025, for those of you that find this episode much later, perhaps after said event. But in preparation for this event, I figured I wanted to go through some of the topics that I will be presenting on as their top of the mind awareness, and I'm finding value in them for myself personally, and thought it good to perhaps share them with you. This mastermind is going to be awesome. I'm very excited for it. We've got a killer lineup and panel of speakers. Besides my wife and I, we will have Rob and Dana Lynn Bailey. We will have Keaton the Muscle Hoskins. We will have Dan Holguin, Kiara Laux, Aaron Mulkey. Aaron Mulkey is a professional athlete and ice climber. Kiara, man, she's everything. She's awesome. Athlete, worked with the bobsled team for the USA and Canada. Dan Holguin, who I mentioned, is a ultramarathon runner, was on American Ninja Warrior a couple times. He's a great fitness and mindset coach up in Montana. Robin Dana Lynn Bailey, owners of Flag Nor Fail and several other companies. Dana was Miss Olympia, serial entrepreneurs, and just a powerhouse couple. Keaton the Muscle Hoskins, again, serial entrepreneur, has owned and sold over 20 businesses, huge in the personal development and public speaking space now, and just very excited to bring this group of people together and have this event in a community that I'm so passionate about, and excited to share that with everybody and bring a bunch of people to beautiful Cody, Wyoming, and put some fat on our brains and shift mindset a bit. So today's episode is about that, discipline through adversity. Let's get into it. So I made some notes. I did kind of a stream of consciousness and just brain dumped. So I'm going to be using those notes for this. And what that's going to help me do is going to help keep me on track, and so that I don't spontaneously erupt into interpretive song as I present this message to you. However, that might build the podcast more than just the talking head. But let's get into it. So discipline. What is discipline? By definition, discipline is the ability to behave and work in a controlled way, often by following rules or standards. It can also refer to the training that develops self-control, orderliness, and character. I also liked that when I was looking up different definitions that it said it is a branch of knowledge, typically one studied in a higher education. And I'm going to get to that. Now, motivation versus discipline. This is something that I've talked about in previous episodes. Motivation and inspiration don't get it done. They just don't. They're short-lived. Are they an important piece to the puzzle to get motivated for the thing that you want to accomplish? Sure, but it's not gonna keep you going when things get tough. Discipline is superior to motivation always. And finding that discipline is what's going to keep you showing up, even on the days when you don't feel like it and when things aren't perfect and not going maybe as planned. So if you're banking on motivation getting you there, I've got some bad news for you. You're going to fall short. Discipline is also known as non-negotiables. Non-negotiables, for those of you that may be new here, are the list of things of how you're going to live your life, the things you're going to do the things you're not going to do. And as this definition has referred to, following rules or standards, right? And that's what non-negotiables are. And hopefully non-negotiables are things that you're setting for yourself and that maybe you're not just arbitrarily following. Because I think we can get very specific on what your personal disciplines are or your personal non-negotiables to help you get on track to where you want and need to be. If you are not where you want to be in this life, you just aren't that man or woman yet. This is a realization that I've come to in my own life several times. As I start kind of working through where things didn't line up the way that I had intended, or things didn't work out the way that I had planned or had hoped, in an effort to take extreme ownership on that, I've come to the realization that if I'm not exactly where I want to be in this life, it's because I have not yet become the man that I need to be to fully achieve that. And I'm going to get to this later, but it's taking extreme ownership, because that's going to be my best bet to control the things that I can control. Completing non-negotiables you have set creates self-trust. Self-trust is huge. I am a big advocate for affirmations, self-affirmations. I think those are useful. Speaking things into existence, out into the universe, what have you. But speaking affirmations does nothing unless there's action with them. And so having non-negotiables and an opportunity to keep promises to yourself or find that self-commitment is huge for navigating who you are and how you exist. I would even argue that if you struggle with trust throughout your life in any area, you might have a hard time trusting yourself. And establishing these non-negotiables and then following through with them creates that self-commitment, that self-trust, and is a form of self-love, which I'll talk about later as well. Keep promises to yourself, and they might be really small. That's the huge power of the simplicity of making your bed in the morning, or whatever it is, these small little things that help us move the needle. Moving the needle is small non-negotiables stacked up and you proving that you are who you say you are. So speak the affirmations, but let's find the action. Let's make the rubber meet the road. With that, I've also found that math is life. Life is much like a math equation. And just like how a math equation has an order of operation, right? What was that? When I was in school, it was please excuse my dear Aunt Sally was the phrase that would help you remember the order of operation of doing things in a certain order, making sure you took care of the parentheses and all of that kind of stuff. Life is similar. And in order to get the most out of this life and live the life we want, I'm also a believer in that we have to set an order of operation. And for me, more specifically, that means that there's things in my life that I will not put behind or on the back burner in order to focus on my financial or like my business goals. And those things for me are my relationship with God, my family, and my health and my fitness. Those are the things that I need with me the most if and when I reach said goals. Figure out your order of operation. What's your personal math equation for your life? Get that established and hang on to that. Figure out what your mantra is. There's a flag hanging in the barbell club in which I own, and in my hand script it says God, family, freedom, weights. It's a very simple list, but it means exactly what I need it to mean, and each one of those means more to me than just the word itself. But figure out your order of operation, because that's going to help you know and establish non-negotiables out of what comes first and what that order and how it exists. Circling back to the second piece of that definition for discipline, where I said that it's a branch of knowledge, typically one studied in higher education. I loved that, because when I think about personal development or becoming who I want to be, that's like a version of higher education for me. I'm trying to surpass where I'm currently at and start accessing the life and the version of myself that I want to. And so, just a couple thoughts going into that a little bit more on the higher education piece. the higher education, I believe, is where divine intervention and free agency or action meet. Okay? And going a little deeper into that, I feel like we often wait around too much. And one of those things is this concept that, well, I'm gonna sit back, I'm gonna wait for God to show me where to go and to show me what to do. What if, just consider this for a minute, just what if he has already laid out that framework? What if your Creator has already laid out the abundance and all of the opportunities? What if he's already done that? And then now the ball is completely in your court when it comes to applying the action item and seizing those opportunities. And I think that's where the free agency comes in, one of God's greatest gifts to us. What are you doing to act? Because if you're just sitting around waiting, that's going to be your holding pattern. And you're not going to see the progress that you're wanting to see. So to access that higher education or that higher version of self, we have to apply the action step. And the other thought that I had when it came to that higher education piece is this is where and how we can find and access our maximum potential, finding your true self perhaps. I have this belief system, and I've talked about it on other episodes, that I believe God put inside each and every one of us this tiny little seed of maximum potential, every single one of us. And it is up to us to use said free agency and action to start digging for that, to see if we can find that, and to see if then we can nurture that seed into something incredible. I believe to my core that we, each of us, have a version of ourself or a seed of maximum potential that we have not yet accessed, and then nurtured and help it to grow and become something that we dream about. So discipline through adversity. That's what this mastermind's about. That's what this podcast that I'm sharing with you is about. Discipline through adversity. Discipline is what it's going to take for us to get through the adversity that life is inevitably going to throw at us. What is adversity? By definition, difficulties and or misfortune. And I will add some in and some out of our control. It's a slippery slope to go through life where everything happens to you. And what I find is that the adversity that I face in my life, some of them I had my hand in, right? They say life's hard. It's even harder if you're stupid. I have proven that accurate in my life many times. But ultimately, there will be some adversity that you will face that truly you can't control. And they're just events of misfortune, as it was put. And there's different types of adversity, right? We have physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, social, and financial. And what's interesting is that sometimes you'll fight adversity that hits every single one of those. And when I was brain dumping on this and I was writing down, the different types of adversity that exists, and it's pretty obvious, of course, that would be the categories that adversity would live in and hit. But it was a quick reminder. I'm like, oh man. So as a type 1 diabetic, which I am, that has hit every single one of those categories for me at some point in my life. I've had type 1 diabetes since I was 10 years old, so I'm working on almost 30 years with it. And it has definitely given me adversity on the physical side. It has most definitely given me adversity on the mental and emotional side of dealing with that. The spiritual side, sure. Because there's been times in my life and even my youth of questioning why me, right? And then the social side, it definitely impacted me in various settings where socially, this is something I have to take with me. I have to be prepared in all settings to treat low blood sugar, to make sure I'm prepared to treat high blood sugar, all of those things. And financially, man, I had years where I didn't have health insurance and I had to hustle for my insulin. I was literally going to doctor's offices, going to free clinics, and asking anyone if they had samples of the insulins that I was using, because at the time, which I thought was bad back then, it was like $400 for a vial of insulin. And as a young man, still finding his way in this life and trying to get to go to school and things like that, I didn't have that disposable income to pay out of pocket. So I had to hustle to get insulin off some of these programs. So definitely felt the financial burden of that. Thank goodness I'm not in that situation now, because most recently with the last administration, some of the insulin that I take has gone up to $1,200 for a cash price. So it's gotten outrageous. But as I went through and I'm like, okay, type 1 diabetes, it's definitely some adversity that I've been given. And it's definitely hit every one of those categories for me, but it's something that I have to deal with. It's not who I am. I don't identify with it. But it's just something that I have to work through. So just kind of a personal, story or experience there that can maybe help you connect with your own adversity that you're going through, and you'll find that each one of those is going to get probably touched on. But when it comes to adversity, and as I've already mentioned with this, some in and out of our control, it's a slippery slope to be a victim. So let's talk on how not to be a victim 101 when it comes to the adversity in your life. The first thing is, stop giving away your free agency. Stop doing that. I don't know why we do that. And we are so quick to take other people's free agency away and just go into this victim mindset. And I just don't think it serves any of us. But instead, if you could look at every situation, even if you had some misfortune that was completely out of your control, and if you look at it from the angle of what have I done to create this? And maybe you didn't create the initial misfortune, but what you can create if you're not careful is exacerbating it by how you're choosing to respond to it. So based off the principle that every moment is a choice and every choice has prices and benefits, what have I done to create this? And so it may have happened, but now kind of the rest is up to you on how you're going to respond to it. And that goes into control what you can control. As I just mentioned, how we respond. That's always in our control, no matter what. And I think these things are obvious, but we all need the reminder, as do I. Remember that this is why we're here. Most recently on some of the shirts at the Barbell Club, in my hand script, it says on the back, this is why we're here. It is a reminder that in the gym, it is supposed to be challenging. It is supposed to be difficult, because if it doesn't challenge us, it doesn't change us, right? Life is the same way. Life is supposed to be challenging. We are supposed to have trials and tribulations, because if we don't, then we don't learn. We don't grow, right? And so we have to recognize that this is why we're here, whether in the gym or outside of the gym. That can be a helpful mindset to help you get through some of this adversity that inevitably we are all going to face. Stop blaming your circumstances. This one's big. And this one is a huge catalyst for becoming a victim, right? Well, it's the circumstances. I couldn't do it because X, Y, and Z. One of my favorite words is abundant or abundance. And my favorite definition of that comes from a man by the name of Brian Clemmer. And he describes abundance as the position where our wholeness and completeness is not dependent on external circumstances. So again, your life is not decided by what's going on around you. If you're in circumstances that don't serve you, work on changing that. Stop blaming external circumstances. And it got me thinking of this saying that I've heard before. It's like a dad joke, right? Like, wherever you go, that's where you're at, right? But man, how true that is. And I'll go deeper into that. So wherever you go, that's where you're at. People are so quick to blame circumstances. Well, gosh, I'll just, if I could just live somewhere else, because I hate the weather here and there's just nothing to do. Or if I just, I hate my job. So if I just had a different job, man, things would just be better. This house just isn't, if I had the different house, the different car. And before you know it, your whole existence is based on external circumstances. So let's say you move to the town that has the better weather and has more things to do. And then in the process, you get the better job. And let's say you found the house that fit your needs better. You're probably going to find that when the dust settles on all those changes, you're still as unhappy as you were before because you didn't work on you. Wherever you go, that's where you're at, and you're always there. So it all circles back to these personal non-negotiables that help you live the life that you want, starting with you and personal development. On kind of last on the list here that I have for on how not to be a victim 101, it's gratitude. Before, during, and after said adversity, finding gratitude. Gratitude is something that I implement quite a bit in my life, but it's something in the last month or two I've been adding at even a higher frequency and with more intention. I've always done a good job of starting my day with gratitude. And usually that's in some form of prayer, right? That I express gratitude for another day. Nothing's promised, and so I'm grateful for the opportunity to have another day, feeling like I won the lottery. And then just the opportunity to be grateful for everything that immediately is presented to me with said day. So that part has been a fixture for me for a while. And then when I talk about during adversity, right? Let's use a really simple example. You're on your way to work and you get a flat tire. And now you're going to be late to work, you're going to miss that meeting, and it throws off the whole agenda or the schedule for the rest of the day. It's easy to let that spiral out of control and then ruin that day. But instead, if we zoom out and be like, man, I'm so glad that I have a functional vehicle that can get a flat tire that can help get me from point A to point B. It's just turning it on its head, and it's taking one of my favorite sayings, which is, if you think your glass is half empty, pour it into a smaller glass and shut the hell up. It's about perception, and perception is reality, and it's the truth. So finding gratitude through and in the middle of your adversity is what's going to help you go through that with more grace and with more dignity. Now, the after piece, after adversity, is important too, because that's when we get hindsight's 2020, right? We've got an opportunity to look back at this trial, this tribulation that we went through, and see how actually it probably served us and brought us some other good. I will tell you that I've had some pretty significant events in my past that there's a big part of me that wish that they wouldn't have happened. But I've gotten to a spot to where some of the things that I've gone through and the traumas that I've been through, at this point, I don't know if I would give them up, because they've slowly helped me become who I am today, because I'm anxiously engaged on working through them and making the adjustments that I need to make, and not remaining a victim to some of those situations where truly I was a victim. Now, that the gratitude after is something that I've been adding more recently. So what I've been implementing more over the last little bit in my life is journaling. And so I wanted to talk about journaling here on this last little point of gratitude, because that's been one of the biggest things that this journaling exercise has helped me with. So what I started doing is journaling every evening about the day that I just finished. And I should preface this with that journaling has been on my radar for a while. And I've heard it from lots of people that I follow and people that inspire me or that I look up to in certain respects. And it's always something that I obviously believe that there was value in, but it's nothing I'd really taken the time to implement. So I keep getting exposed to it from different people and different versions of it and different ways that they go about it. And finally I decided, you know what? I just need to give this the real college try here. So I started journaling. And the problem that I found with it in the beginning was that Luke's a bit of an overthinker. And so I was overcomplicating the process. I'm like, okay, well, should I date it so I know the date, or does that matter? And should I write it as if it makes sense to whoever comes back later and reads it if it's not me? And I was just like, Luke, just start writing. And that's been one of the values that I found from the journaling. So, and I do have a structure for it, which I'll share with you, but it's more of just like a stream of consciousness, and I'm just brain dumping within these guidelines that I'm about to share. So don't overcomplicate it. If you're going to try this exercise, just start writing it. And I do believe there's power in actually writing it, like pen to paper. There's something about that exercise that helps process the things you're writing and internalize them more than if you were to just do a voice memo or put notes in your phone. It's just not the same. Remove the screen and go back to pen and paper because there's more value there. I can't explain it other than I just have found that to be true. So here's the structure on my journaling. I sit down, I do date it. I'll put the date and the day of the week. And then the first section that I journal on is gratitude. What am I grateful for today? And I'll go through and write the things that I'm grateful for. And again, you can do this however you want. It could be a list. Mine are never really usually lists. It's more of like, I'll talk about the things. Sometimes I'll expound on it. Sometimes I won't. Again, there's no rules. This is you. Don't overcomplicate it. But the first section is gratitude. What are you grateful for today? And you're going to find that some of the things you write day in and day out are going to have some similarities. Like one thing that I probably always write every journal entry is gratitude for my life, that I got another day, because that's on my radar. And I don't ever want to not appreciate that. So that's there almost every time. But again, first section, what you're grateful for. The next section is going to be the biggest portion of this journal entry, and it's going to be what emotions did you feel today, or what did you experience today, however and whatever that looks like to you. And again, this will be the biggest meat and potatoes of the journal entry. And so it's an opportunity to talk about anything that you experienced that day. Right, wrong, different, good, bad, ugly, it doesn't matter. You're just brain dumping. And sometimes, man, I'm jumping from one topic to another with it's almost just like a run-on sentence. So again, it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to make sense to anybody else, but just get it out and get it on paper. And then the next section after what you experienced that day is what are you looking forward to, or what are you excited for? And as you go through this, it gives an opportunity to, again, kind of connect to that gratitude, because it's important to have things to look forward to, right? Because we're excited for another day. We got this day, and now I'm excited for another day, God willing. So what are the things that you're looking forward to? What are the things you're excited for? It could be that next day. It could be what you have coming in the next weeks, in the next months. It could be anything. This is about you. So make it about you. After what am I looking forward to, or what am I excited for, what I do is I write personal self-affirmations, and I do these in third person, and it feels really stupid when you first do this the first time. And it's like you almost like embarrassed about it, but just get past all that and just do the exercise and get out of your own way. But with the space that I have left, and sometimes I'll go to the next page if I need to. Again, there's no rules, but I write in third person self-affirmations. And it could be anything from Luke is confident. Luke is successful. Luke is healthy. Luke, again, just write the things that you are, that you want to be, and that you want to step into. And in going through this process, when you first start, it's going to feel odd. It's going to be out of your routine. But once you get going and you get it habitual, some really cool stuff starts to happen. And I've had experiences already just in the short time that I've been doing this, to where one day when I was in the section of my journaling where I was writing the emotions that I felt that day or what I experienced, the first sentence I wrote was, "Today I felt capable." And the minute I wrote it, I was like, wait a second. I'm pretty sure I wrote that a while back in one of my previous journal entries. So I went back several pages, and there it was in my self-affirmations. Luke Krubeck is capable. Now, I know that's obtuse and like, what does capable mean? But it was just something that I was just, that day when I wrote the self-affirmation, I wasn't feeling as capable as I wanted to for the things that I was working towards. And then several journal entries later, I'm writing it, and I wrote that I felt capable that day. And as I continued, it was like It's like I can't really explain it outside of like I just felt more connected and I felt more capable. And I was like, that's rad. So putting it out there in the universe, as I've mentioned before, as wooey as that sounds, thoughts become things, especially when we apply the action to them. The action is the ingredient that makes it work. And I've seen it show up that way. And so finding gratitude, I was going to share one journal entry with you guys when I was going through and kind of jotting my notes down that I had come across that I thought I would just share. So this is the meat and potatoes of what I experienced on this day. Today I felt a certain brand of calmness. I've noticed that more and more. Doesn't mean I don't get emotional spikes or highs and lows, but I'm taken off course less. I'm recalling the importance of finding joy and happiness with exactly where I'm at, all while creating the changes and progress needed to build what I want. Shit, I feel grateful. Feeling good about a lot of things. I deserve to feel this way, and I will not be allowing the fear that has previously robbed me of joy present itself in its habitual ways. It is my life, and I am in control of it, secondary, of course, to the will and timing of my Heavenly Father. But I will not wait for Him to show me the way, because I'm beginning to realize He has already laid out the opportunities in abundance before me. In order to access it, I must step into the version of myself that unlocks those doors. The gift of free agency puts the ball in my court. I'm excited to become who I know I want and need to be. Gratitude is what helps us stay present. And in the current present is all we have. That's it. Tomorrow is not promised. Yesterday is done. I recommend learning from our past and making course corrections and actionable items that we can help prepare for the future. And again, planning for that, looking forward to it, being excited for it. But at the end of the day, all you have is right now. I have found that in finding gratitude before, during, and after adversity is helping me stay present. It's helping me stay grounded. And that's been a beautiful thing. And as I said in that first sentence, today I felt a certain brand of calmness. And that's what I've noticed with this exercise of adding journaling, is it's helping reduce the highs and lows that I feel throughout the day. And I'm not being taken off course so much. Much of what we work through in this life with personal development, we're working through things that have existed in a chronic nature. There's a chronicity to the things that we need to change about ourselves. So it's not as simple as it's on and it's off. And I believe I've shared this in the past, but I much approach these personal development changes much like I do chronic pain in the physical therapy clinic that I've worked in over the last decade. Is when I work with chronic pain, it's helping the patient understand. It's not, do you have pain, don't you have pain? But are we seeing a drop in intensity, a drop in duration, and a drop in frequency of said symptoms? And that's what we look for on the changes that we're trying to make in self. Now, it's like I said here, I'm feeling a certain brand of calmness. And I said, it doesn't mean that I don't get emotional spikes, highs and lows, right? But it's not taking me off course as much. So I'm noticing an improvement in intensity, duration, and frequency. And that's what's pretty rad. Journaling is giving me the proof that the work that I'm putting in is making the changes that I want it to. So if you're not journaling, this is your recommendation to do so. And I'm sure that if you spend any time in the personal development space, I'm not the first person to encourage that. So that's just the way that I do it. And I've modeled that off of a few people that have talked about it to me. Cody Alford, Matt Vinson, a few other guys that do it kind of similarly. So I have taken some of their ideas, I've made them my own, and I've added a couple things as well. And I'm encouraging you to add in that piece to your puzzle, because it just might help you find gratitude and therefore find a better adaptation to you being present and getting the most out of this life and feeling more joy. Because if we're meant for joy, joy only exists in the now. This is all we have. So, perhaps it's not the storms that we have to weather in this life, but more of how we choose to weather them. So, to continue on here, just a little bit more on being present and a little bit more on non-negotiables. A man that I look up to very much, Dan Holguin, who's also going to be speaking at the Mastermind that I've spoke about. Excited to have him and hear from him and learn from him again. Every time I hear Dan speak, there's a little nugget that I can take and I can apply into my own workshop of personal development and the things that I'm working on. And a couple of the things that he shared that I've adopted and will make my own and continue to share with you today is that the journey is greater than or equal to the destination. When I came to that realization, it was like this epiphany and this light bulb of like what I've already been talking about being present and that being the only thing that we have. So if tomorrow's not promised, I'm still working for goals that are down the line, right? I still have a 5-year plan, 10-year plan, things like that. But none of that's promised. So it's important that I settle into the journey and trust and enjoy the process. Because if I don't, then what's it all for? The journey is the destination. All the more reason to make sure that you're living life in a way that you enjoy the journey. That was groundbreaking for me, and I've continued to hang on to that and use that as a reminder for myself to continue to come back to center of, am I being present, and am I doing the things that are helping me embrace and enjoy this journey? The other thing, the other 2 points that I got from Dan is that it's not always about winning or losing, but did you accept the challenge? I love that, man, because we get so caught up on the wins and the losses, which is, I think, also has its place, right? Like, I don't do anything to lose. However, did you accept the challenge? And you could tie that into one of my favorite definitions of success, which comes from Earl Nightingale, which is success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. So it's because you're doing something because you chose to do it and that you accepted the challenge. So it's not all about the wins and the losses. It's, did you accept the challenge, and are you doing your best, and are you applying yourself? The next is that the top of the mountain is often just the bottom of the next. And again, all more the reason to trust and enjoy the process and live the life that you want to live, because the work doesn't stop. The work continues, right? And so realizing that, again, this is why we're here. It's supposed to be challenging. And so this whole thing of I'll be happy when, well, you're going to get to that when, and you're going to find out that there's a lot more work to do. And hopefully, if you're anxiously engaged in becoming who you need and who you want to be, you're excited for that next mountain. And once you've achieved that, you're like, okay, I'm never really done. I'm kind of going back to the drawing board and applying increased efficiency on how I exist and the things that I want to do. If you change your story, you change your results. This has been presented to me in so many different ways from different people, and I continue to share it with others and adopt it into my own life. But it's the story that you're writing can be changed at any point, and therefore will change the results that you're getting. So if there's something about your story or your movie, then change it, because you're the author and you're the main character. You're the director. You're the main character. Make those changes and live the life that you want. If you don't like what you're doing, then why are you doing it? If you change your story, you'll change your results. I've seen that in my own life, and I believe that to be true. Now, does that mean that you will, the minute you decide to just go ahead, right this moment, I'm going to be living my exact dream tomorrow. No, of course not. It takes time. And there's going to be a lot of stepping stones along the way. But start working towards it. And that usually comes down to what are your own personal development patterns that you're creating, or your non-negotiables that you're going to live your life by. And this is why personal development rips. This is why I'm so passionate about it. This is why I started this podcast and why I'm putting on this mastermind. And so many of the things that I'm involved in is because I see the value of stepping into that version of self that will then help me show up the way that I want to for the people that I care about the most. And then I can become the man that I need to be to reach said goals. If I'm falling short, if I'm not going to be a victim, I'm going to look at that through the lens of I'm not who I need to be yet, and I have work to do, right? Pleased but never satisfied. Grateful from where I'm at, grateful for what I have, but I have work to do. And keeping that intensity and keeping that drive to keep me going and apply the discipline through adversity that's going to keep me moving in the trend and the momentum that I want. Which is the next thing I wanted to touch on, which is that I have a unique opportunity to watch momentum work in people's lives. At the Barbell Club, we have people come in and we guide them on their fitness goals, right? So I have people that come in to see me for weight loss goals, people that want to add muscle to their frame, people that need to make some really big lifestyle changes to get healthy. Everyone comes at it from different angles of what their whys are and what their reasons are and what their current pain points are of why they've not been doing it on their own. But I had this unique opportunity to help guide people and get them into our programs. And then as I meet with them, and I have these regular check-in meetings with them, usually around every 3 weeks or so, I get to see this shift and this change happen in them because they're applying personal non-negotiables to their fitness, which therefore is infiltrating everything else in their life in a positive manner, which goes back to the general mission statement of the Barbell Club, to expose as many people as possible to strength training, because I know if they give it a chance, it will be a tributary of positivity for the rest of their lives. The rest of their lives meaning two things: God willing, as long as they live, and also the rest of their lives, all these other avenues. So I get these people that come in to see me for weight loss, and 6 months in, they're talking about how their marriage is better, they have more confidence at work, their clothes are fitting better, they're more excited about X, Y, or Z, that they can keep up and go play with their grandkids easier. Like all of these things, right? Just because they committed to some basic non-negotiables of lifting weights 3 days a week and eating a balanced nutrition plan that prioritizes protein and single ingredient foods. Like, it's awesome. And it's amazing to watch momentum work. And that's kind of what we're talking about here with personal non-negotiables. It's doing things that help us create momentum. Do the small things repeatedly over and over again that help you move the needle. That's what it comes down to. It's stacking up those small things. All the cliche sayings, right? How to eat an elephant, one bite at a time, brick by brick. It's all of these things, but it's true. All the more reason why we need to trust and enjoy the process and recognize that the journey is greater than or equal to the destination. Momentum, your life is momentum, one way or the other. Not very often are you just in a static holding pattern. The little things that you do or don't do are going to create momentum on an uptick or a downtick, depending on what you're choosing. Stop putting yourself last. You have to prioritize yourself in order to show up the way you want for the people you love the most. I'm finding that to be very, very true in my life. A quote that I've heard several times floating around, and I don't know who coined it first, and I'm paraphrasing it probably a bit, but it says, the life you want is on the other side of the work you are avoiding. Personal development isn't always glamorous. It's not always fun because it requires us to look in the mirror and take some extreme ownership and take an inventory of our life. And what are the things that I need to change and adjust? Which things are serving me and which ones aren't? And maybe that's people too, protecting your energy. Your parents told you, just like they probably told me, or I heard other parents saying, show me your group of friends and I'll show you your future. But there's something to it. Protecting your energy, trying to be around vibrations that help you vibrate the way you want. But it comes with work, and the work that you're avoiding, right? If you're not reaching your goals, it's because you're not the man or the woman that you need to be yet for those goals. So you got to start working on self with those intricate and small non-negotiables. Find the appropriate amount of self-love. Not the gross kind. Not the kind where you just accept all your shitty values and don't change anything. But find the right amount of self-love. It does require you showing yourself a little bit of grace. It does require you forgiving yourself for past mistakes. Self-love does require you taking action and accountability. And self-love does take you being willing to work on yourself for others. If you put in the appropriate amount of work on self, it will directly correlate in how you're able to love all the people you want to love. For me personally, I was finding that my lacking self-love, which was very intense, was hamstringing my ability to even be able to love God the way that I needed and wanted to, my ability to love my wife the way I needed and wanted to, my children, everyone around me, because I wasn't getting out of my own way to find the appropriate amount of self-love. Like I talked about earlier, if you set your non-negotiables and you keep this self-commitment and those promises to yourself, you start building that trust in yourself. Just like I'm talking about here, if you start finding that way to find the self-love and to do the things that help you be you, you're going to have an easier time loving others. And that's why we're here. The two greatest commandments, to love God, to love thy neighbor as thyself. But if you don't love yourself first, you're not going to be hitting the other ones the way you want. Establish the personal non-negotiables, aka the disciplines, to become the person you need to be and take life's adversities head on. Don't make excuses. Stop being a victim. Start working on the things that you know you need to do. I encourage you to do that. You will see the difference. Don't forget, as always, build the better you.